So, what is forest? According to Convention on Biological Diversity, the land area must be more than zero point 0.5 hectare with tree canopy cover more than 10%. The land area are not primarily under agricultural or non-forest land use, and the young forest, the minimum tree height in situ is 5 meter. So let's move on into statistic deforestation in Malaysia. According to ACTA 2024, 17% rainforest cover loss in Malaysia from 2001 to 2021. In Malaysia 2022 alone, 118,000 hectares of natural forest lost, which result in 83.9 million tons of carbon dioxide release. So, Malaysia total tree cover loss in 2001 to 2022, 8.92 million hectares has lost, which show that 30% decreases from 2000 that leads to 5.1.6 gigaton carbon dioxide emission. So, what is deforestation? Deforestation is the conversion of forest to another land use or the long-term reduction of the tree canopy cover that are less than 10% threshold according to Convention of Biological Diversity. So, what causes deforestation? The major cause are agriculture, followed by pasture, urbanization, water reservoir, and timber logging. So, what are the impacts of deforestation to our ecosystem? Firstly, it leads to biodiversity loss due to loss of habitat, which can decreases the species population and increases of species extinction. Secondly, it can lead to forest degradation that alter the forest structure and ecological function, which reduce the forest capacity to provide ecosystem services. Not only that, soil degradation are also one of the impacts from deforestation, which causing soil erosion, nutrient loss, and landslides, which increases the infertile land that are unable to support vegetation. Fourth is climate change. Carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere when the trees are cut down, which can contribute to global warming. Last but not least, for water cycle disruption is one of the impact that deforestation has, where forests regulate water cycle by maintaining groundwater and rainfall pattern.
Here are the key Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) related to deforestation in Malaysia. First of all, SDG 15. This is the primary SDG directly addressing deforestation and forest management. The goal is to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. Secondly, SDG 13, Climate Action. Deforestation is a major contributor to carbon emission and climate change. Therefore, this goal is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Reducing deforestation helps preserve carbon sinks, which is the forest, strengthens climate resilience, and support national climate commitments. Lastly, SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals. Achieving deforestation-related targets require core sector and international cooperation. The goal is to strengthen global partnerships to support sustainable development.
Malaysia policy of forestry is one of the policy that manage deforestation issues in Malaysia. This policy is needed and was formulated by encompassing the key aspects of the forest policies of the Peninsula Malaysia, Sabah, and Sarawak. These three regions have their own respective policies in managing the forest because forest is under the jurisdiction of the state government. This policy stated that Malaysia recognizes forests as a strategic national heritage and committed to secure sufficient forest areas by providing direction for the implementation of sustainable forest management through good governance and practices to ensure the forestry sector continues to achieve sustainable development. Other than that, manage, conserve, and rehabilitate the permanent reserve forests or forest reserves or permanent forests based on the principles of sustainable forest management. Also, one of the objectives of this policy that help in reducing deforestation issues. Next, National Policy on Biological Diversity 2022 to 2030. This policy is Malaysia's national framework to provide guidance in conserving Malaysia's biological diversity and to ensure that it is utilized in a sustainable manner for the continued progress of the nation. This policy is developed in response to challenges in utilizing natural resources such as deforestation, biodiversity loss, habitat degradation, and climate change. In keeping with Malaysia's international commitments, the policy still embodies the spirit of the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) and has been aligned with all the key elements of the Convention of Biological Diversity (CBDs), Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework (KMGBF). This policy retains the Goal Target Action Framework to guide Malaysia's efforts not only to conserve biodiversity and promote sustainable use, also to ensure fair and equitable sharing of benefits from the use of biological resources. Next is the National REDD Plus Strategy (NRS). NRS builds upon existing relevant policies in Malaysia's national strategy under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change (UNFCCC). From the framework, the agreed REDD Plus activities including addresses emission from deforestation and forest degradation while promoting sustainable forest management. One of the main objectives of NRS is to promote consistency and synergies in the implementation of climate change, forest, and biodiversity-related policies between federal and state levels. Then, Malaysia will contribute to the following national targets: maintaining 50% forest cover, achieving the NDC pledge made under the UNFCCC's Paris Agreement for the period between 2020 to 2030, achieving national policy on biological diversity and forest policies. Malaysia's NRS aims at ensuring the forest resources and their ecosystem services are secured and the benefits are shared fairly and equitably among all stakeholders. Therefore, this strategy will consider the full cost of deforestation and also taking into account the value of ecosystem services and biodiversity loss.
How do the related SDGs and Malaysia policy play their role in managing the deforestation issue? Deforestation and degradations of the forest ecosystem have been identified that can affect the environmental stability and the quality of the well-being of the community. The Malaysia policy on forestry is the country's updated framework for sustainable forest management. Its main goal is to ensure that forests are managed not only for timber production, but also for ecosystem services, biodiversity conservation, and climate mitigation, while supporting the livelihood of communities that depends on the forest. This policy is closely linked to SDG 15, Life on Land, but it focuses on protecting forests and maintaining their ecological functions. It also supports SDG 13, Climate Action, as healthy forests store carbon and help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to climate mitigation and adaptation. Finally, it aligns with SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals, because sustainable forest management requires collaboration between federal and state governments, local communities, NGOs, and international partners. In short, the Malaysia policy on forestry supports SDG 15 as its main objective, contribute to SDG 13, and relies on SDG 17 partnership for effective implementation. Moving on to the National Policy on Biological Diversity, or NPBD, is Malaysia's main policy framework for conserving biodiversity. Its purpose is to protect ecosystem, species, and biological resources while ensuring they are used sustainably and integrated into national development planning. NPBD is mainly linked to SDG 15, Life on Land, because it focuses directly on protecting terrestrial ecosystems and preventing biodiversity loss. It also supports SDG 13, Climate Action, as healthy ecosystem and forests act as a carbon sinks and help improve resilience to climate change. In addition, NPBD relies on SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals, because effective biodiversity conservation requires cooperation between government agencies, NGOs, local communities, and even international partners. In summary, NPBD directly supports SDG 15, contribute to SDG 13, and is implemented through SDG 17 partnerships.
Last but not least is the National REDD Plus strategy, where it aims to reduce emission from deforestation and forest degradation in Malaysia. It is mainly linked to SDG 13, climate action, because it focuses on reducing carbon emissions from the forest. It is also supported by SDG 15, life on land, by promoting forest conservation and protecting forest ecosystem. The strategy relies on SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals, as it requires cooperation between government agencies, international partners, and other stakeholders. In short, the national REDD Plus strategy supports SDG 13, contribute to SDG 15, and is implemented through SDG 17 partnership.